Welcome everybody to the Synoptic Visual Designer WordPress Design Tool plugin. So what it is it's a plugin that allows you to edit and change the design of your website with no coding needed whatsoever. So that's really awesome. So we see the top right hand corner of our screen, we have this little Cyclops looking guy. So if we click on him, it kind of like turns on Synoptic Visual Designer. So we notice now, if we kind of look around the text and whatnot, that it's a little different. But first off, let's look at these buttons. So the first one we have is the Publish For button. So if we click that, we can save the current CSS style to the current page or the entire website. Our next button is real nifty. It's the Rollback button. So if you make a change that you didn't like, or you want to go back to a previous style, you can do that for the entire website or just the current page that you were on. Our next one is the Switch To. All that does is just moves this little guy over to the left or back to the right. We have the Resolution button, and that just changes the resolution. Resolutions span from a phone, smartphone, iPhone, tablet, or desktop. We have a Delete button here, and what that does, it will delete unsaved or saved changes. And then lastly, we have the Edit Roll button, and that just edits the design for everybody, or just the admin, or an author, or a subscriber, or what have you. Alright, so those buttons were nice, but let's get to the real, why we're here. So you notice if you kind of highlight over something, this little tiny Cyclops will pop up. It says Enable Edit Design. That's what we want to click on. And when we do that, it kind of highlights what we're going to be editing, and this table pops up, so these buttons, and we want to click on the first one. It says Edit Design. So we click that, and here in the bottom right hand corner, this table pops up, and this is our settings. So the first one is text color. So if we click on that, we can change the color of this text on the fly, which is pretty neat. Alright, and we see we can also, you have the red, green, blue values. You can set the code there. Next we have is the size. It's set for 32 pixels right now. We can make that larger or smaller. And we can set the how it's measured. We can use pixels, percentages, or inches, or whatever you want. Next up is the fonts. So this plugin uses Google fonts, which means I think you have at least 500 fonts, different fonts to choose from. 500 plus probably. So yeah, a lot of variety there. So let's pick one, and we notice it changed the font. Alright, next up we have the text weight. And so what that does is, except for bold right now, but the larger the number, the chubbier your text, your font will look. We have text alignment, so we can right align, center, justify, left, all that good stuff. Alright, we have line height, set for 40 pixels right now. So if we change that, you can see it's getting a little stretched out there. And lastly, we have the text style, and we can set that to inherit, normal, italic, or oblique. So let's just choose oblique, and there you have it. Now the next button we have is the box settings button. So when we edit this, so this text has, I guess you could say, an invisible box. It's a white box around it, but we can change that. So the first button we have is the background color. A lot of these options are very similar, except for what they affect. So if we choose a color here, we see we can edit the color of the box. We can affect the width of our box. And once again, it's like the text, we can choose pixels, inches, millimeters, whatever. Next up is height. So we can make that small, big, whatever we want. We can set a background. Now we have options for that. We have repeat, repeat X, repeat Y, no repeat, initial and inherent. Let's choose an image. Select image right here. I'm going to use this free image I found online of a pug. A sad pug at that. Pugs are always sad looking. So that's our background image. We also have padding top, padding bottom, padding left, and padding right. So we can set that. Let's do padding left here. And padding right. Alright, next we have the margins. We have the top, bottom, left, and right margin. So we can edit that. Here's the bottom margin, the left margin, and the right margin. Alright, next up we have the border. So here we have the border, like how big it is. We have the like pixels, or you can use inches or whatever. And then we have the style of the border. So it's automatically selected to none. So let's choose dotted. We see we have definitely more than dotted, but I'm going to choose dotted. And then let's give it some meat to it, I guess. And next we can change the border color. And we can change the border radius. That's the next option. That kind of makes it oval. And lastly, we have display. It's set to block right now. We can change that to none or inline block or what have you. Alright, so now when we are done editing this, we just click on disable edit design, just a little Cyclops guy, and this has changed now. Another thing we can do is let's edit this right here. So we see enable edit design, and we do edit design here, and this table pops up. So we did all this on the normal tab. Now let's move over to the hover tab. So what hover is, what it does is your text looks how it looks until your mouse hovers over it. So we can choose color if we'd like. We can choose a size. So like, see how I just made the size bigger. So uncategorized. Now if I hover it, I change color and change size. And you have all the options as previous. So we can change the text or the font when we hover over this. We can change the alignment of the line height and the text style. And we can also do the same thing for the box settings. So nothing will pop up until you highlight it. So let's set the box background color to green, I guess. Set the width and the height. So now when we highlight this, it's a big green box. We can set a background, padding, margins. Let's mess with the margins a little, shall we? So you can also give the border. Let's change the border color here. Oops. and we can do the border radius. Let's make that over like. This is looking very ugly, but you know, it's just a demo. So yeah, those are the main features. There are two other buttons. We can switch the position of our editing bay right here, and there is also an advanced settings tab, but we're not going to go into that right now. We see we have a lot more options. So once we are done editing everything, if you just click on your big Cyclops guy right here, then the web page goes back to, I guess, normal mode, and your changes are reflected. So that is Synoptic Visual Designer.